podcast with Michelle True.
Hey family, you are at Say Something podcast with your girl Michelle True, and you have made it to episode 6. If you haven't watched previous episodes, I will tell you again, go back and start from the beginning. These 6 episodes are one complete thought that has played over and over and over in my head for several years, and you have to listen to it in sequence. In episode 1, I told you why I write. In episode 2, I gave you my personal testimony and I introduced my husband to you. In episode 3, I told you about my daddy and the highs and lows of our relationship. In episode 4, I talk about my mom and my daughter and the connection that they have to me. In episode 5, I speak about my sisterhood and the Queen's tea. And today, I am going to give you episode 6 about my twin brother and my son. And so, as we continue to go on this journey and I wrap up this complete thought, I just want to thank you for being here right now. I would love some of your feedback as you hear the whole story as I live it, as I perceive it. And know that I'm still trying to figure this all out. But just getting it off my chest, having the confidence to get it off my chest, it allows me to breathe a little bit easier. So again, today I give you episode 6, poem 6, Sonrise. All suns are meant to rise. Let's go. Sunrise. Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and empty. Darkness covered the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day. In the beginning, darkness covered the earth. Then God gave birth to a son that shines for all the world to see, a son that belongs to both you and me. The sun's gravity controls the orbit of the planets, making the entire solar system valid. The sun radiates day and night because it also provides the moon with light. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west, always giving us time for ample rest. Its beams provide us with energy, growing new things and supplying plenty. The sun uplifts us each day, guiding our steps and showing us the way. Its solar power gives us strength, including more than just the talented 10th. Each day we anticipate the coming of the sun, never wondering if it will be done. As the sun rises high in the sky, we have no reason to ask ourselves, why? We just know that it will be. And because the sun is forever trustworthy, day turns to night, then night to day. And even when we want it to stay, the sun sets in the west, as we will all one day be set to rest. And even when we pray just for one more day, we must remember the sun doesn't last always. This cycle of life says all suns will rise. So never listen to the lies of society telling you you aren't worthy enough to make it through. You can conquer all conquests and even become more powerful than the most powerful member in Congress. Don't digress, never regress. You have a purpose. Rise high into the sky as God intended you to. Don't let death be your debut, but ascend each day, spread your rays and show others the way. Then rest each night so that you don't over-ignite. Preserve your light. Rise up, my son, for you are the light of the world. Dominion and power is in your hands to control this new world. You must power the next generation, giving birth to positive, enlightening, innovative creations. You are molded in the essence of all of God's faces. Shine your light in all the dark places. Your peers may look at you and not know what to do because your light is so bright. You can't be kept in the dark. You must educate yourself and others to make a resounding mark on this land, for that is God's plan. Your power can control nations. So as you rise, try not to fall for wicked temptations. Rise up, my son, like Lazarus did from the grave. Rise up, my son, for you are not a slave to whatever the man may try to put you through. You are made in God's image, so you must be true. Rise up, my son, to be a leader of the pack. Use your weaknesses as strengths and don't let them be a setback. God made you in his image, so you must ascend into the sky. Greatness is upon you, so keep your eyes on the prize. Jahiion, my son, rise up, for you are a leader. Be the beacon of light and make the whole world a believer. Like sons of the world that have come before you, let the legacies of Gandhi, Garvey, Selassie, Du Bois, Woodson, Marshall, X, King, Obama, Francois shine for you. Like them, you are not the standard. You are the exception to the rule, and you must exceed the golden rule by treating people better than they treat you. Each day, each week, each month, each year, each decade, each generation, you must build the foundation and know that all sons are meant to rise. If we teach them, encourage them, empower them to be wise and use their God eye and never give up even after their final descension into the sky. Rise up. When most people hear the name MJ, they think of some of the greatest: Michael Jackson, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Michael B. Jordan, But my MJ is Michael Jr., my twin, Michael Dawson Jr., my day one, my literal day one from the womb. From as far back as I can remember, my brother has always had my back. We fought like cats and dogs, but my brother did not and does not play about me. When I told y'all in episode 2 that my dad said we don't go looking for a fight, but if it comes to you, you hit them so hard they don't come back for more. Well, my brother is my fist. When my mouth wrote a check that my butt could not cash, my brother was always there to save the day. He was my protector. My dad told him that it was his job from young. He was raised to protect Michelle, and he did not take his job lightly. To this day, despite me being fully grown and married for nearly 20 years to a protector, if I call my brother and tell him that somebody did something to me, you better believe that he is going to be on his way to come and see about me. It's a mantle he carries. Protect Michelle. Look after Michelle. Be strong for Michelle. But I was never given that job. That was never my task. I was actually told if I look after my brother, if I protect my brother, I was making him soft. Tough love is what he needs to become a man. But that never sat right with me. Growing up without our mom, I would always tell my dad, if you're going to give him the tough love, who is going to give him the tender love? I always knew that balance was needed. But Michael never got it. So I tried to be his sister and his mother. I tried to fill in the gap. From most people's eyes, you won't see my MJ as the greatest, but I see him as one of the greatest because I know the potential of greatness in him. I know his talents and God-given abilities. I might have been born first, but he is the big brother. He could walk before me, talk before me. He taught me how to tie my shoes at 5 and ride a bike at 7. He has this gift of gab. My dad would always say, that boy could sell ice to an Eskimo. He is mathematically skilled. He can compute numbers in his head like that. And for me, I had to write everything down. I had to study. I had to practice. But to him, he just seemed to get it. The skater, the baller, the one people liked. And I think about part of the reason that I had to leave the DMV area when I graduated high school was because I didn't want to be only known as Red's sister. I have a name, and I had to get away to make a name for myself. He was born great, born to shine, and I had to find my light. But I had the privilege of having women mentors who stepped in the gap when my mom was not present. I talk about them all the time, my angels. They saw this little girl without a mom, and they gave me what I needed to succeed. But many of those same people assumed that my MJ, he had his father, so he was going to be okay. When we were preparing for my father's homegoing, my uncle, my dad's oldest brother, he told me about how they were raised. He said that their father told them that you raise your girls and your boys, they will figure it out. And when I think about my dad, my uncles, my brother, my male cousins, they are all simply just trying to figure it out. A cycle that I intentionally aim to break with my son. Because he will not just be thrown to the wolves and told eat or be eaten, fight or flee. My son will be given spiritual, emotional, and mental tools to prepare for this world. When we graduated high school in 2001, I had a clear vision with lots of people behind me, pushing me to the next stage in my life. By the time my MJ graduated, there were so many people who had already counted him out. He was so angry. He's a menace. They never said that he was the bad twin, but they implied it when they said, Michelle, she's the good twin. And I just wanted them to see how good my MJ really is. But how do you make people see what they don't want to see? He's his daddy's son, an alcoholic, a bully, smart but won't use it, a hard worker, one who loves his family, one who believes in loyalty. He has a sense of entitlement, and he believes that the world owes him something. And I know we often say, the world doesn't owe you anything. But I disagree. Because when the world fails a child, how do we expect the child to become a man that can pick themselves up by their own bootstraps? My brother is struggling. And I think part of the problem is my brother heard my dad tell me how proud he was of me. He heard my dad tell other people how proud he was of me. But my MJ never heard my dad or too much of anybody tell him how proud they were of him. And not hearing that from his daddy made him feel some kind of way. But my dad, he told me, he said, he's my son. I love him. He's my son. Of course I'm proud of him. He's my namesake. He's my legacy. And all I have is my name. So he is it. I just want him to do better for our name's sake. I think if my brother heard those words from my father, he wouldn't beat himself up so much. He would be able to free himself and rise up. The struggle is so real, but I believe my MJ is still destined for greatness. God has spared his life too many times. He has an enormous amount of favor on him. Favor because I believe that God has a plan for him, and God is moving in a way that only God can move. And my MJ just has to be willing to receive what God has for him. So Michael, you have to be willing to walk in your light. Baby brother, it is time to shine. It is time to rise. I was going to end the segment where I did, but I didn't feel right leaving you guys with this picture of my brother that is healed and whole, because it just isn't true. I would be misleading you. And if I'm going to speak my truth in this last episode of this 6-part segment, then I have to tell you the truth. My brother is not healed. He is so very, very far from it. You see, when we were in our 20s, my brother got diagnosed as having bipolar disorder. It's something that runs in my family. When we were young, I would often say, my brother can go 0 to 100 real quick. I didn't know what I was looking at. I didn't know what he was experiencing. When he got the diagnosis, he was going through a very traumatic experience in his life. And the drama was to the point where he was either going to go to jail or a hospital. And my cousin Doug knew enough. He knew enough of the signs to take my brother to a hospital. I was in college at the time, and I was taking a psychology class. So when I got the diagnosis, it just made things a little bit more clear. It gave me some understanding of what I was seeing my brother go through all of these years. I had rationale to that reason that he would have these amazing highs and these extreme lows and these manic episodes. And I would make excuses that it was out of his control. He didn't have the skills. He didn't have the power to do anything about it back then. But today the problem is completely in his control. Because after he received that diagnosis, he got a choice of what to do with it. He could seek healing, or he could do as he chose and ignore it. Why am I telling you all of this? Because it's a complete picture from my perspective. I called my brother a couple days after the Super Bowl, and I had watched Kendrick Lamar's halftime show at least 3 times. And then I went on this rabbit hole of watching other halftime shows, and I ended up at the greatest, Michael Jackson. His performance was so beautiful. He was truly the greatest to ever do it, the best entertainer. I watched MJ's show, and I reminisced on how my brother and I used to watch Michael Jackson's Moonwalker when we were kids. We would watch it on repeat. So I called my brother, thinking we were about to have an amazing experience together, just laughing and joking. I said to my husband and my kids, this is about to be a dope moment with my brother. But when I called him, before I could get the first words out of my mouth, my spirit was brought really low. Because with my brother, you never know what you are going to get. Are you going to get the chill Mike, the funny Mike, the charismatic Mike, the one who has great conversations, the one you can just have a good time with? Or are you going to get the manic Mike? The one who is out of control, the one who is always in his feelings and doesn't do well processing them. And in the ways that he chooses to process them is going to land him back in jail. And that day, I got the version of my brother that I do not like to talk to. But I tried. I tried to be on the phone. I tried to hear his side of what he was going through. I tried to listen to how the people had done him wrong and how he felt entitled to be treated fairly. I tried to empathize with him and his situation. I tried. But it sounded like he was just loud and wrong, and I couldn't do it. You see, Manic Mike is not the greatest. He is not the one who is walking in his best life. And after several minutes of trying to talk the Incredible Hulk down, I probably just made it worse. Because in the last 20 years since we got the diagnosis, I have been the one coddling my brother, as I perceived a mother should coddle her son. Yet in the last year, I have been reminded that I am not his mother, and I cannot be his God. I cannot save him, I cannot coddle him, and I will not coddle him anymore. I can't pretend that my brother is okay. I can hear my father say, see what you did? You made him weak. And there is a level of truth that I have to start giving myself and my brother. I can't tiptoe around this bipolar diagnosis anymore. It is time to have hard conversations, but for years, we just wouldn't talk about it. Because I knew he couldn't hear me. But I hope he can hear me right now. Because it's a time for change. It is time to stop doing what we used to do and to start doing something new. And I know it is going to be hard because first, my brother has to admit that there is a problem. MJ, stop telling me that you don't need to go to therapy. Stop telling me my drinking is not as bad as it used to be. Stop saying that you don't need a therapist. Why do I need to talk to a stranger? If my family would just pick up the phone when I called, I would be okay. Stop saying that because it's not true. We cannot be your therapist. We cannot be your rehab. We cannot do this for you. But we can do this with you. We can help. But MJ, you must take the steps in the right direction. It is time to seek legitimate help. Michael, you need spiritual and psychological help that can help you process your highs and your lows. Because as I've told you many times before, the favor that you have on your life is because God has something amazing for you. Remember, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. It is time, my brother. If you want to see the greatest MJ, the greatest comeback, the greatest turnaround, the greatest underdog story, then it is time to seek God for your healing and be willing to seek medical help for change. You have to want this more than I want this for you. If you want to get out of your current situation, and I am here. I am here to help, but I cannot do it for you. I can no longer be your crutch. I can no longer be your enabler. I can no longer stand in your way. So it's time for some tough love. So MJ, are you ready to show them what you're made of? Are you ready for the world to see your greatness? Are you ready to show them that we don't die, we multiply? Now the joy of my world is in Jahiion. Ooh, that was flat. I told y'all I can't sing, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Now the joy of my world is in Jahiion. Jahiion Isaiah Francois was born September 9th, 2007. My firstborn child. The joy that this little boy brought to my life is unfathomable. I had no idea children started off that little. Honestly, I had never been around a newborn before. I had never bought clothes for a newborn before my son. I babysat children who were 2 years old and older, and I didn't believe that infants were that small. So when he came into the world, though expected, I was unprepared because everything was just too big. But being a first-time mom in a state, in a city, by myself, no, I wasn't alone. My husband was with me. But I didn't have my mother, my sisters, my aunties, no cousins, no grandma. I didn't have anyone to coach me through this experience. So even though there was so much joy, there was so much sadness. I remember September 6th. I went into the hospital for a routine high-risk pregnancy checkup. They said that they wanted to induce me. They told me that because of my gestational diabetes, my son was going to be too big to deliver, and that it was in my best interest and his to get induced. They told me to come back the next day. So I followed instructions. Hubby and I left the hospital. We had our last meal, just the two of us. I went to the nail shop to get my toes done because I had read somewhere that that was a cute thing to do. We got home, packed our bag, and we slept our last night as a 2 member family. The next day, we went back to the hospital, not fully knowing what to expect, but trusting the doctor. They checked me in about 7:30 p.m. I felt no contractions. They hooked me up to this monitor and they kept asking me, "You don't feel that? You don't feel that?" And I'm like, "Nope, I don't feel anything." And so they induced me and they gave me this drug that I don't recommend to any woman unless it is absolutely necessary, called Pitocin. Pitocin was supposed to induce and speed up my pregnancy. But I think if my doctors would have just listened to me about when I conceived my son, they wouldn't have pushed so hard. If they would have listened to me when I said, I know the date of my last menstrual cycle, I know the day I got pregnant. Because, as I said, my children were planned. But they played this game with my due date, originally being September 21, then September 15, and now we were looking at September 7th. But Jahiion was not ready. Throughout my pregnancy, my husband would put headphones on my stomach, and I could feel Jahiion jamming in there. I gave him the nickname J Boogie before he was born. On the 8th, my husband was playing music for me just as he normally does. And Jahiion decided that he was not ready to come out, but he was ready to move. He was dancing and flipping. He got turned around and tangled up in his umbilical cord. They said he was losing oxygen and that if things did not change by the morning, I was going to need a C-section. And things did not change. So on September 9th at 10:21 a.m., after 38 hours of labor and an emergency C-section, Jahiion Isaiah was born. A healthy 7 pounds, 8 ounces, not too big, baby boy with perfect fingers, perfect toes, and a head full of red hair. I was so exhausted from all of the drugs, I couldn't even enjoy my baby. After I heard him cry, my husband said that I said, "He's okay. I can sleep now." And I don't remember anything after that. They whisked J Boogie away and my husband got to do the whole process of cleaning him up and all the other cool things that men get to do with babies. When I woke up and I saw his face, I remember thinking, my math teacher lied. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 equals 3. And that it was time to put my big girl drawers on because I had to take my son home. Jahiion Isaiah, the one who changed my name from Michelle to Mommy. Now the joy of my world is in Jahiion. All sons are meant to rise. His first name means God's lion. His middle name is after the prophet Isaiah, the one who foretold the coming of the Messiah. Names have meaning. And I always wanted my son to understand that he was intended to walk in greatness. In episode 4, I tell you that I intentionally raised my daughter the way I wish little Michelle was raised. Well, the same goes for my son. I intentionally raised my son the way I wish little Michael was raised. His father can be hard on him, and sometimes he should be. But I get to be the balance. I get to be the tender love that is needed. From the time J Boogie was little, I could tell he was going to be smart, gifted, a navigator, detailed oriented, and an overthinker. My modest Virgo baby boy is kind and calm. Oh, he was so calm. But don't get on his bad side, because that retaliation spirit is strong, just like his mama's used to be. And because we are still working on this, I still have to remind him that blessed are the peacemakers. When Jahiion was about 8 years old, he was starting to exhibit some negative behaviors. He was stealing and lying, just being real deceitful. My husband thought the solution was to beat it out of him. If I beat him enough, it'll teach him a lesson and he'll stop. And to shame him, tell all the uncles and the cousins, make him feel bad, and that'll make him change his behavior. But as his mother, I just wanted to love on him, pray for him, because I know the power of prayer, and I know that it can change anyone. It was hard finding that balance. I stepped in between his father's discipline at times that I should have stayed out, and there were times that I didn't step in soon enough. But things got better. And as he grew, he had a lot of breakthroughs. I retained Jahiion in the 3rd grade, not because of academics, but because of maturity. I simply deemed that he was not ready. At the same time, we transferred schools from Al Ain to Abu Dhabi. I believe this allowed him to transform and renew himself. He didn't have to be known for his deviant behavior. I gave him a fresh start, as I had had many times before because I moved around a lot as a child. In a new environment, people didn't have to know him by the title of thief. I saw what titles did to my brother and others. It would stick to people, and people would refuse to let you live. And I did not want that for my son. So we transitioned to a new school, and he was better. He was still learning though, still trying to figure out life and test his boundaries. But he wasn't stealing from his parents or his teachers anymore. As he matriculated through the school, more labels came along. But just as he was getting ready to go to high school, we moved again. This time across the world to Japan. My baby boy got to start new again. He completed his freshman and sophomore years at the same high school that my dad graduated from. A full circle moment for me. He got to reinvent himself yet again, and no one was there to hold him accountable to his old stereotypes. He gained new labels, more positive ones. Pretty boy, talented, skilled with a basketball, kind. I don't want my son to feel like he has to move or run away to reinvent himself. But I know how flawed humans like to hold people accountable to who they used to be. So if he has the opportunity to change his title, his label, his name, I will tell him to go every time. Even Jesus had to go away from home. It says in Mark 6:4, Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own town, among his relatives, and in his own home." So as my son approaches his senior year, I tell J Boogie to go. Discard whatever labels, whatever behavior doesn't suit you, that doesn't allow you to shine. Allow God to show up and show out in your life, and believe that you are destined to be great. Rise up, my son, for you are the joy of my world. Jahiion. It disturbs me to see people who have potential. Like their light is so bright, but they don't walk in it. They don't walk in all that God has given them. And I had to ask myself, think like, why does this disturb me so much? Especially for people who are close to me. People I personally know how dope they are. And they don't do something, anything with all of that dopeness. And I had to self-reflect. Michelle, are you living up to your fullest potential? Are you shining as brightly as you can shine? Or do you self-sabotage? Do you get in your own head? Do you get in your own mind that you are not as great as God has said you are? And for whatever reason, fear stops you and you get in your own way and you don't walk in the fullness of your own light. But it's much easier to see other people not shine than to see yourself not fulfilling the prophecy of who you are supposed to be. This feeling really makes me ask myself a lot of questions, because I used to be very judgmental. I used to be very judgmental. And I've learned over the years that I need to take a look in the mirror. There's this old saying that says the pot is calling the kettle black. And I took that to mean that I can't judge anyone without first looking at myself, examining myself and seeing, who am I? And sometimes I feel like a fraud. There's a psychological term called imposter syndrome, meaning I doubt my skills, my intellect, and my accomplishments. And that often manifests in a constant inner criticism. This syndrome, it sneaks up on me at times, and it makes me feel like I ain't it. What is this little girl who grew up in poverty? This little girl who was homeless twice, who has very, very, very humble beginnings. What does she know? How does she go from Del Rey to Dubai, to Japan, to Rome, to Spain, to Sri Lanka, to Jordan, to the world? How does she do all of that if she's not a fraud? And when I tell people about my travels, they would ask me, "Are you military?" Because to me, in their minds, the only way a poor black kid can travel the world is if they are military. Then I have to correct them and say, no, I'm not military. I'm just an educator. Just an educator. Yeah, I'm just an educator who educated herself I don't claim to know everything, but I know what I know. And no one can take that from me. I've seen the world from a point of view that most people could never. I have walked in greatness because I live by the quote, success is measured by the company you keep. And Proverbs 13:20, walk with the wise and become wise. For a companion of fools suffer harm. And I've suffered plenty of harm from the foolishness that I was around. So I choose to be around other creatives, other dope people walking in their greatness. It pushes me to be greater, not in a competitive way, but in a reflective way. There's a fork in the road, and I can choose love or fear. I can congratulate my girl, Queen. You are phenomenal. Amazing. Give it up for my sister. And I can truly mean it. Or I can have hate in my heart. And I can fear that if she's doing this, then what am I going to do? Or she thinks she all that. Or I know she probably think her don't stink, but lean a little bit closer. Roses really smell like boo, boo, boo. I could just be a hater and have fear in my heart instead of love and rejoicing because my sister or brother are shining. And that should push me. It should motivate me to walk in the same light and not believe that only one of us can shine at a time. I was at church a couple of weeks back, and the pastor was talking about potential energy and how potential energy is stored energy. And something has to take place for that energy to propel. He said great potential demands great action because potential is not good enough by itself. He said potential is an unfulfilled promise. Potential is maybes and what ifs. And I envisioned it as playing double dutch. You know, how you rock back and forth, but you never get in the rope because you are too afraid to get hit by the extension cord. But the reality of it is you will get hit and it will hurt. And you may fall down and it will hurt. But it shouldn't stop you from trying. You have to get back up and try again. That is how you succeed. No one got riding a bike the first time. But now that you know how to do it, it's muscle memory, which allows you to ride even after years of not riding. You just have to do it and do it afraid. I won't tell you that I don't have any fears. Goodness knows I have many fears, but I just have to keep going. As I wrote this, I got distracted and I was on Facebook, and Denzel Washington, he came on and he said to me personally, he said, if it was easy, there would be no greats. He said, keep working, keep striving, never give up. Fall down 7, get up 8. Without commitment, you will never start. Without consistency, you will never finish. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. So keep moving, keep growing, and keep learning. So what I'm telling my MJ, my J Boogie, my brothers, my male cousins, my uncles, to walk in your greatness. Don't let your light dim. Don't just pontificate about what you could do. I'm not just saying this to y'all, but I'm saying it to myself too. I know that God has something greater and better for each of us. And if we don't get our behinds up and walk in it, we are failing. We are dim. But God did not create us to hide our light. He created us to let our little light shine. I don't know how to skate. I don't know how to double dutch. And I probably wouldn't know how to ride a bike if it wasn't for my brother teaching me. I don't know how to do these things because I gave up too soon. I got tired of falling down. I got so embarrassed of people seeing me make mistakes, so I stopped making mistakes. I stopped trying. And if you were to ask me a year ago if I was going to learn how to skate or double dutch, I would have laughed in your face and straight up told you, no, I am too old for that. But as I am writing this piece, I think I'm going to give it another try because I want to learn how to skate. I've always loved the skating rink. I love the vibe. I just would never ride. And I always thought the girls who could double dutch were so cool, so fly. I just wanted to be in the space. So, I learned how to turn the rope, but I would never get in. Just rock back and forth, afraid. So I'm going to push myself to do something. I'm going to learn how to skate and how to double dutch. And I would love for you, family, to hold me accountable. And if we just happen to be in the same space and you know how to do these things, teach a sister. For real. I used to ask God, how come I didn't get that kind of talent? And recently he told me, you made a choice to quit, but it's not too late to shine. It's not too late to try again. So today I petition you to try something that you thought you never could do. Don't get stuck in potential. Get up, get out, and do something. Get up, get out, and shine. Family, as I end this 6-part segment, I have to end where I started, with my why. I believe my why is connections. I am a bridge. I love to connect people and ideas. But ultimately, I believe God put me on this planet to connect you to Him. You see, we are all connected. And as I stated in episode 1, I believe the more that we realize that we are connected, the more we become like family. So I hope that you've heard something in the last 6 episodes that connects us. As I've gone on this journey, I've had the privilege of having conversations with my family and my friends about many of the concepts that I am talking about in this podcast. We have connected on levels that we have never connected on before. And I hope you have the courage to have some comfortable and uncomfortable conversations with the people that you say you love. This podcast is called Say Something because I truly believe that I have something to say. But my pastor reminded me that I'm not just supposed to say something, but let the redeemed of the Lord say so. He said, when you are in a church setting or any setting for that matter, you should be able to tell the difference between those who are redeemed and those who are not. And all I heard him say is, they not like us. They not like us. They not like us. Because when you are on fire for the Lord, when you are spirit filled, your dance, your clap, your praise is different. When you have been redeemed, and people might look at us crazy. People may not understand what is filling us, but that's okay, because the redeemed of the Lord must say so. If you have gotten this far in this journey with me, I hope that you see the underlying concept that I once was lost, but now I'm found. I once was blind, but now I see. I once was bound, but now I'm free. I was living a life heading to a fiery pit. I was full of sin, addiction, bitterness, headache, heartache, and oh, so much pain. But the only reason that I am able to stand is because of my Heavenly Father. You see, I am redeemed, paid for by the blood of the Lamb. And my grandfather couldn't steal it from me. My grandmother's prayers couldn't vindicate me. My father, my mother, my sisters, my brothers, my pastor, my mentors, my angels could not save me. And though all of their prayers, they were needed and are appreciated, it was Christ, the ultimate bridge that connects me to my Heavenly Father, who paid the price for my salvation and redeemed me. The sacrifice that He made allows me to be in His presence and be filled with the Holy Spirit. It is His living water and His bread of life that gives me strength enough to stand, power to speak, and the authority to not just say something, but do something. So, I petition you to do something. Tell your story. Don't just sit on your potential. I petition you to get rid of those impure spirits and seek God and let His Spirit fill you. I petition you to speak life into yourself, encourage yourself. I petition you to love God with your whole heart, mind, soul, spirit. Love Him, and then love your neighbor as yourself. I petition you to find your tribe, your brothers and sisters in Christ, and walk in your purpose. And when it gets hard, and please believe me, it will get hard, remember, every trial and tribulation is building your perseverance and your faith. And when it's all said and done, we must count it all joy. Family, Thank you for going on this journey with me. If you made it this far, you are a real one. Thank you for sticking with me. I truly appreciate your support. But please also support the Queen's Tea. Atlanta is happening on May 3rd. So if you are a queen, get your ticket. And if you know a queen, get a ticket for her so we can celebrate all of our royalty together. Again, I appreciate you. I don't really know at this moment what the next episode is going to be about quite yet. I'm listening to God to give me some insight. But I'm coming back. Until next time, peace.
Thank you, family, for tuning in to the Say Something podcast with Michelle True. Make sure you like and subscribe to be informed on when the next episode drops. And remember, a closed mouth doesn't get fed, so say something.